We are jumping into our next session. So it's really been a great storytelling all day long as we have different category examples of how AI virtual beings are already feeding into XR and how all of this is going to create great experiences. And so we're now taking into another practical direction with Elena Piech, woohoo, from Zero Space. And Elena is going to talk to us about how you use AI and XR producing and actually digging into workflows, which I think is not talked about enough because we have to figure out how to do this stuff. So let's have a big hand for Elena. Elena.
Is this on? Awesome. Great. Cool. So AI and XR producing and project managing workflows. I'm Elena. I'm a producer at a studio called Zero Space. We specialize in real-time 3D content. I will get to that in 1 second. If the clicker works. Maybe? Oh, okay. I got to point down here. So quick in terms of the agenda. So we'll just do some intros and kind of expectations for what we're going to cover. I'll talk about kind of generally how you can use these tools either for you or for your teams, show examples that I do with my work, and then we can save some time for some Q&A. So intros and expectations. First, that's me. You feel free. My email is at the bottom, elena@zerospace.co, not .com. And what is Zero Space? So we are a studio in Brooklyn, New York. If you're ever in New York, feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to give you a tour. We're a state-of-the-art virtual production lab, studio, and hybrid event space. So what we have is our Studio A space, which is our real-time 3D content creation studio. In Studio A, we have a virtual production stage, the same technology that Disney uses to shoot The Mandalorian, we have in our studio. We have a Vicon motion capture stage. Vicon is the same stuff used in AAA games and Hollywood movies like Avatar, so somebody suits up, we record their movement. Now we have a real virtual being. We have a photogrammetry studio and a volumetric capture stage. In addition to all of that, in our real-time 3D content creation studio, we also have a 40,000 square foot event space that we do concerts, marketing activations, pop-ups, etc. So we have a lot going on, and I'm serious. If you're in New York, send me a message. I'm happy to show off the space. So producing and project managing responsibilities are different across organizations. So I just want to start off by saying that because no single studio works the same way. And what I do in my producing hat is totally different for somebody at a completely different organization, what they might do. So results for this may vary, but hopefully these tips are super useful for you. And when we're looking at producing and project managing, I just threw up this kind of word cloud, just showing some of the different responsibilities that could be involved. So proposal, bids, managing your team, talking to your customers, finding your clients, etc. And it's a lot. And we need to find ways that we can optimize. And that's why I'm so excited to look at how we can use these new AI tools to really enhance our workflows and make our workday easier. And when we're looking at how to make it easier, this is a recent study from Slack that found people who use AI are 90% more likely to report greater productivity. And so what I'm saying right now is you don't need to go and completely get rid of all the workflows that you have, but even if you start slowly integrating these tools, you can see some of the benefits that you'll already be receiving. And just one more disclaimer, this is not a session on ethics. That can be a whole weeks and weeks and weeks of debate. So we're just talking about tools right now. Just please make sure that you're using them responsibly. And with great power comes great responsibility, so don't abuse them, please. But at least some fun AI talks that was happening yesterday at AWE. You actually have Tony Parisi, who's here right now with Lamina One. And on his main stage session, he was talking about the risk with AI. And I think looking at the general landscape, Tony said it best, where you have unrivaled investors investing in low emotional intelligence tech founders. So as we're using these tools, let's be critical with how we can make sure that they're being used in the right way. Now, going into potential tools, I think what I'll do is kind of be a little bit quick in these overviews, and then I want to dive deeper into the examples to just show how I'm using them at my studio. So text generation, well, before that, actually, raise your hand if you've used any of these tools. I'm assuming most people. Okay, cool. Text generation, raise your hand if you've used that. All right, great. So text generation tools, I think the easiest one that comes to mind would be ChatGPT. It's free, you can sign up for it. There's also a paid version, but frankly, you get away with a lot on the free account. And even right now, I'm writing a presentation on how to use AI tools for project management and producing. Write a 10-slide deck and give me bullet points for what to include. And so I think firstly, when we're talking about how we can use these tools, just making sure that we're being very specific with the type of ask that we're looking for. Because otherwise you could say write a slide deck and it's just going to give you a lot of information that might not necessarily optimize how you can use it. So what can you do with these text generation tools? First, improved efficiency, so maybe having it help you quickly write emails. Sometimes what I do when I have to write an email on like a tough subject, such as maybe telling a client, no, we don't want to take on this project because it's not a right fit. I might just word vomit into ChatGPT and then say, make this in a polite, professional tone. And it's really great. And it helps me because I don't know about you all, but I get email anxiety when it comes to having to give somebody bad news. And now I can just let the robot do it. Enhance creativity, so using it to maybe suggest creative ideas for how you can approach a project differently, or maybe even ideate on what are different ways that we could pitch this to a client. And even consistency and accuracy. So make sure that we're using this all in the present tense. Make our tone like this, etc. Image generation, I'm going to guess the same people that have used text generation also use image. Raise your hand if you've done image generation. Oh, not everybody. Okay. So image generation tools, there are tools like Dolly and Midjourney, which you can pay to have access for, or there are even other sites like Crayon, which is free to use but not as advanced. And how it works is you're going to type in your prompt, and you're going to be very specific for what you're looking for. So woman typing on her computer, this type of color, semi-real, this aspect ratio, etc. And the nice thing for that is it can just be really time-saving when it comes to just quickly generating visuals that you could then maybe put in a potential pitch deck, or put when you're building out a mood board, or even design flexibility. Maybe you know, okay, this is the type of aesthetic that we're going for, but we specifically want to change this part of the room. You can even use these AI tools to modify only certain sections of images. And scalability. In theory, you could maybe build out templates that then you can just generate rapid content very quickly. So maybe if I were working for a social media company, I already have my base template put together, and on Monday I want to share these type of images and just easily generate that out. And I think one thing that's fun to point out right here is this image on the right is actually an image that we used for a pitch deck with a client right now. And we're talking to this client about the future of beauty and what it would mean to maybe work with both physical and virtual influencers on the future of beauty. And so we generated a lot of these images, and then we threw it into the deck. Anybody used an AI project management tool before? Raise your hand. All right, not as many people. So this is a little bit newer, and there are maybe project management tools that some companies might be using, like an Asana or a Monday, but there are new tools that are coming out, such as what this GIF is from. This is from Motion. If you want to look for Motion AI project management, type that in Google and you'll find it. And what's really amazing about this tool is you essentially have your team members. You assign out, okay, this is what I need them to do. This is how long these tasks are going to take. Motion will then detect for all the different tasks on that team member's plate what their workday would look like, and essentially put in calendar blocks. Okay, you have 2 hours here to work on this project, 30 minutes here to answer your emails, 3 hours here to answer this next project. And already what Motion's finding is that it's just leading to a more efficient workday, because now somebody knows when I am sitting from 12 to 1, I am purely focused on just this task. As opposed to maybe using other project management tools like Jira or something where you just have tickets, but you don't necessarily know when you should address that ticket, and it can be easy to do a lot of task switching. And what they find when it comes to task switching, so let's say I'm going to answer my email here, talk to my colleague here, write this proposal here, is that as I'm constantly switching, I'm not staying focused. And it actually takes about 3 to 5 minutes for me to get focused. But if I'm spending 10 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I'm losing a lot of time, as opposed to just taking 30 minutes of deep focus time, knocking out a task, and then jumping to the next one. So what can these tools do? Streamline your process, so already get your scheduling put together. And it's very preliminary with some of these tools, but give it another year or two, and it's going to get even better. But I've seen other AI tools where you could say, I'm building a WordPress site. Give me the timeline for what it will take to build that site. And as more and more people start using these tools, then they're going to have more data for how other people work. And like for me personally, even though I do project managing in my workday, I kind of hate project managing. And so if I can get AI to help me, that's awesome. Enhance collaboration, so blocking out time for your team to actually work together and making sure that you're being effective when you're working together. And also making sure that we're not just showing up to a meeting to then sit there, debrief everybody, and then finally actually get the meeting going. You could start using these tools to send people the meeting notes ahead of time, send out the action items, let people know what they're supposed to look at before they get into the meeting. So that way when you have that face-to-face time, you're using it efficiently and you're not just twiddling your thumbs. And then data-driven decision-making. So some of these tools can look at, oh, are we going to fall behind? Do we need to allocate more resources? Oh, we see so-and-so has 30 hours this week empty on their schedule. What other tasks could we assign to them? And so I think it's super amazing, and I think that it's going to be more efficient with the way that we work. Now, AI tools for writing emails. I know I talked a little bit about emails. Has anybody used any of these specific tools? Okay, cool, no one. So feel free if you want to look up these tools. There's Jasper, Brevo, Copy, and a number of other tools out there too. And you can actually add them right into your Gmail app or whatever email app you prefer. And you could already have it start populating responses to your emails for you, as opposed to ChatGPT, where you'd have to copy and paste the body of the email in there, have ChatGPT generate it, copy and paste it back from ChatGPT into your inbox. It can be integrated right away to make that workflow more efficient. And there's also a lot of other really interesting things you can do. So personalization and segmentation. So that might be, let's say you're doing outreach for a potential client, type in their LinkedIn page, say, I'm interested in working with this person for X. These tools can already scrub through their LinkedIn page, write a customized outreach email that feels very personalized. Now, you wrote that outreach email. The next thing you can do is having improved deliverability and engagement. So when it comes to reaching back out to that person, they didn't hear back. Now it can already schedule when the follow-ups are going to happen. Or they say, yep, let's meet. It can schedule, read your calendar and say, great, I'm available from this time to this time, which sadly, I'll admit, like, 4 hours of my week is probably spent doing calendar Olympics. And now that I get those 4 hours back, I'm so happy. And then automate workflows, so automating repetitive tasks like scheduling emails, etc. Now, going into current examples of things that I'm using at my studio, I'm super excited to share some of these, but I will just say my role is I'm a creative producer, so I'm going to focus more on what we're doing when we're producing 3D content and less a little bit on the project management end, but happy to talk more about those tools in the Q&A portion. So getting succinct pitches. This is actually from 2 days ago. We're working with a client, NDA, secret, on how we can make the VMAs more watchable this year and how maybe we could bring AI into the VMAs. And so the agency that we're working with, we put together just rough mood boards for different pitch concepts. And instead of writing that on text and saying, oh, imagine, I'll get to the image in a second, but actually, imagine if we had a bunch of goats go to the VMAs. Now we can just use AI to generate it and say, Harry Styles chasing goats on the red carpet, and just have that in 10 seconds. And so we did that for all the different ideas that we were talking about, just so that way us and the client are on the same page about what we're going after. Then, and this was all yesterday, actually. So yesterday we had the meeting with the client. And after the meeting, we have another AI tool that listens in and can summarize the meeting. And if you look at in the meeting summary, it then talks about specifically where in the video you can watch what it's referring to. So, hey, when we pitched the max headroom idea, watch it here. It's 30 seconds spent talking about this. When we're talking about, is it AI or is it not, watch it here. It's 10 seconds. And so that's so efficient. And it's just great because it just leads a paper trail for what's happening in meetings. And also, you don't need to have, traditionally what I would do is sit and take notes during all of my meetings. Now I don't have to do that. I can just be part of having that active discussion. Let's just appreciate the goats. If goats are at the VMAs this year, that would be great. Next, quick content creation. So rapidly testing and improving your content. On the left, using ChatGPT. So, hey, write me a list of accessible platforms for hosting a virtual concert. Bam. I mean, you can do this for anything. So write me a list of trending ways to engage with Gen Z, or get very specific, write me a list of, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a list. It could just tell me about the interest of Gen Z. Oh, they're interested in X. What type of products most appeal to X, etc. And then another fun tool is, especially for those who might be creating content here, this is called Wonder Studio. And what you can do now is shoot a video on your phone, upload it to their Wonder Studio creator. It can then swap out that person with a digital character. And so for me at my studio, where we're doing 3D content creation, we have the motion capture stage where that's high-end character animation and movement. And maybe before we actually work with a client to rent the stage for a day, instead what we'll do is, this is a form of previs now, where we're going to just shoot it quickly on our phone, make sure that they like the movement, they like the timing, etc. So that way when we're actually coming to production day, we're making the most efficient decisions that we can. And it also helps us see things that we wouldn't see. For example, oh, this joke didn't land, or we need to try from this angle instead, etc. And I think as we're talking about all of these AI tools, the really important thing to point out is the more data that they have to work with, the more users that they have, just the even better that they're going to get. So we're still early on, and even looking at tools like DALL-E and Midjourney, where they were a year ago, they couldn't generate humans. And now these humans look pretty freaking good if you ask me. And the same thing's going to happen with all these other tools too. And this is not something that my studio does, but this is another studio that I'm very close with. They're called Mersive. They've done virtual worlds in spatial for McDonald's, Jack Daniels, really cool interactive virtual websites. And now they're starting to work more with doing different custom AI tools. And this image on the left, this is not from them. I just quickly grabbed that off Google. But what they did is created something that they like to call their Jarvis, where they fed a chatbot all information about their company. And now it knows the company's tone, the company's values, the previous project that the company has worked on. And now they can message what they call Jarvis for, hey, we want a proposal about this, give me a great intro paragraph. Or the client's asking about this, how should I respond? And it's not even just for dealing directly with the client, but they're also doing it for their development too. So they work a lot within the metaverse platform Spatial, and they essentially fed this bot everything about Spatial's SDKs and developments. And now when they're building worlds, if they run into an issue about Spatial and about Unity. And so if they run into an issue, they'll message and say, hey, is this possible to do within Spatial? Or I'm running into this code bug, how can I fix it? And this team, although they're a relatively young studio, they're doing fantastic work with AI, and they have OpenAI's intention right now, and they're chatting with Sam Altman sometime this month. So I would just say, if you're looking at creating custom AI tools, or you're interested in that, definitely give these guys a ring. Cool. And then I want to talk specifically about a project that we're working on right now at Zero Space. This is called Time Squid. The general plot is it's a coming-of-age show for kids ages 8 to 15. And the creator of the show essentially hates how TikTok has just created constant passive content consumption, and there's no more creativity. And so he wants to create a character that can inspire people to want to make their own content. And traditionally, when it comes to creating content, creating characters, what you might do is search all over the internet for your mood boards, describe what you want the character to look like, and instead what we're doing is using AI to enhance how we're creating the characters and building the environments for the show. So first step is we turned to Midjourney to kind of get our direction for where we wanted to take this character. So we wanted him to have a TV for a face, but some type of stylistic body. And then we took all of these different mood boards, and there's way more images that I can share. But then we gave that to a human concept artist and said, hey, this is the direction that we want to take for the character. This is the inspiration. Worked with the concept artist to get a really great drawing of how we think this character should look, so real person. We then took that drawing, used this tool called Kadeem, which you can upload an image and then wait about 20 minutes, and then it'll take that image and generate a 3D asset on it. It's not perfect, it's super buggy, super early, but once again with these tools, give it time and it's going to be better. But we essentially used Kadeem to get a base model. We then took that base model, passed it over to another human on our team to refine it and really rig out and get a detailed looking character, and really add the magic and get it to come to life. But if anything, that Kadeem 3D model that was AI generated worked as a good reference point. Like, this is the scale that we like, this is how big we want the head to be, how big the shoes would be, things that are easier to see in 3D versus on 2D. And then once we had the human to refine it and rig that character, we then made additional refinements too when we looked at him. So, hey, these shoes, we want something that is more flashy. So use AI to generate what more flashy might be, then refine again, and then work with the human to make those final touches to get actually a real character. And I'm sad because we had to upload these as PDFs, and upload these on a USB, and so I didn't want to include videos because I was afraid videos wouldn't play back. So I just have some stills right now. But we did that whole workflow for creating our characters for the show, creating the virtual environments, and kind of teasers for the show will be coming out this fall, which is going to be really great. So yeah, and that's Time Squid. There's nothing about it yet, but if you hear stuff about Time Squid in the future, now you'll know a little bit. And I think there are 5 minutes left if I'm reading the schedule right, I hope. So let me know if anyone has any questions. And obviously, as with probably a lot of talks in this room, all these background images, if it's not black slide, it's got a background image, AI generated, like this one. So does anyone have questions?
Yeah, thank you for this. This is great to see these really practical examples of Gen AI being used in production space, let alone the creative. But my question is about IP privacy. Do you have any concerns about this or suggestions on how to protect your IP when you're uploading information about your company or your characters or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think right now that's the tricky part because it's so early on that people could be running into risk if they don't know what the privacy is. And I think the best advice is just making sure that companies are looking into, if they're using another software, what does that software say for that terms of use? And just in general with this space overall, like I think that's something that we as a studio work with educating our clients on is, hey, afterwards we will or will not delete these assets, et cetera. But it's definitely trickier when it comes to looking at these AI tools just because it's not like there's one company that's a big leader in the space. There's so many small startups that are out there, and those small startups are willing to cut corners sometimes. But I think in the future, yeah, making sure, even using AI to generate a basic contract to ensure that your IP is protected. But always consult a lawyer for now. Anyone else?
Oh, wait, one more here, and then you.
So some of the concerns with IP are using AI that are ethically sourced. So they aren't just compiling all of this really high artist's work and ripping it off. And how do you guys navigate trying to make sure that your IP is authentic and original?
I think for us as a studio, a big thing is making sure that humans are still involved in the workflow and that we're not just typing, generate a character for a kid's show, but we're still having a human figure out, okay, what is the aesthetic, what is the style that we're looking for, and even if we're passing it off to Midjourney or DALL-E to build those mood boards, still having a human pick, okay, which are the images that I finally want to use, and even going over to those image to 3D generation tools. We're still just kind of using that as a reference point, but we still want people to be fundamental to that process.
Thanks for the shout out earlier, Elena. I got to tell you, so a journalist, 2 techies, and a venture capitalist got into a room yesterday and scared the crap out of people with doom and gloom. You changed my mind in this talk today. I can't wait to use most of these tools. So that was my comment. A question would be, of all those time-saving tools that you were talking about when you rifled through that list, what is your favorite? What's the thing that you're like, okay, I'm never going back. I cannot live without this one thing?
I mean, I think it's 2 things. First thing from a work standpoint is the project management tools, just because it's making the workflow so much more efficient, and it means that I have more free time in my day to do more of the creative process and less of just the file checking and assigning tasks for other people to do. But me personally, I'm having a lot of fun with Wonder Studio. and being able to just take my video and already have a 3D avatar based on my movements. And I think that that's the thing that I'm most excited about is the studio that I work at right now in Brooklyn. You know, it's a multi-million-dollar production facility, but give it a couple more years and a lot of these tools will mean that anybody just on their phone can already start creating movies that will be better than the movies that get bypassed in traditional Hollywood. And so really long-term seeing how can we make these tools more accessible and what new forms of storytelling will come from that. One last one, I think, and then we'll go.
Yeah, just a question kind of based off that last thing you said. I'm assuming it's probably like a Unreal Engine virtual studio you guys work at. How are you guys kind of positioning yourselves as a production company to maybe try and bring in that new talent in 5 years, or continue to adapt when in 5 years you may have competition with individual creators or something like that?
So the honest answer for us right now is Zero Space, where I work. Pre-pandemic, it was a ticketed immersive art experience, so somewhat similar to Meow Wolf. And pandemic hit, and unfortunately, when you're a ticketed in-person experience, they were getting ready to close the doors, but then realized, well, wait, we have these artists that know how to work in 3D, and we also have these people that make LED tiles for concerts that can't do that. How can we somehow collaborate? And now we've pivoted into this real-time 3D content studio. And for us right now, we are doing kind of day-to-day agency-style client work, but we're hopefully in the next few months going to be able to secure a round of funding. And our long-term goal is to try to follow the Pixar model, where every single project that we create, when we're working on creating our own original IP, so that show Times Square I was telling you about, that's our own IP, we're always doing some type of new technical development. And then we can take that technical development and license it out for other 3D creators. So for us, I think we don't see people working in their backyard as competition. If anything, it means that the space is more exciting. And that's another thing that we also have at my studio is an artist residency program. So how can we collaborate with these artists and use these tools in completely unique and different ways to then find better ways to make content that, in theory, we could use for clients and in the long term for ourselves.
Great, fantastic. Let's have a big hand for Elena.